Pitch to Pro is the official podcast of USL Arkansas. This will be our platform to tell our story about the club and the special place that we call home, Northwest Arkansas. This is a journey. We want to bring you along for the ride. We'll share what's going on behind the curtain, help educate the community at large about soccer, our league, and give updates on the progress of the club along the way. Together, we'll explore and unpack our journey to professional soccer, the magic that is NWA, our community, and talk all things soccer from on the pitch to behind the scenes, telling the story of our club. Pitch to Pro podcast is proudly sponsored by podcastvideos.com. Podcastvideos.com is Northwest Arkansas's premier podcast recording studio. Equipped with industry-leading equipment, the recording studio and services save you time, money, and hassle. They are dedicated to helping you create, record, and publish high-quality podcasts for your audience. Be sure to check them out today at podcastvideos.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pitch to Pro podcast. I'm your host, Wes Harris, Managing Director for USL Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas's professional soccer club playing in the United Soccer League. We have such an awesome conversation on tap for you guys today with my guests from the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. We have Mr. Lloyd Owers, Technical Director, and Commercial and Marketing Director, Mr. Matt Webb. Gentlemen, thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
So there's so much to talk about with what you guys have going on. I feel like we're kind of cousins a little bit in terms of our projects, but we'll touch on that. But tell us first, before we talk about the Marshall Islands and your project, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Maybe Lloyd, we'll start with you, kind of a little bit of your background, how you kind of got into football and all of that.
Yeah. Growing up in the UK, it's one of those things where I think if you don't play football, you are the outcast. Yeah. Everyone has to play, and you're just almost dragged up to play. And I started playing officially within, structured games at 5. 30 years on, we're still involved, and it's one of those ones where, the passion just kept growing and growing. Played at an okay level until I stopped playing fully around 24. I was coaching from 16.
Okay.
And then decided to focus on just the coaching side, stop playing and just coach. And one of the early coaching positions for myself was working in a club called Chelmsford City, which is in the National League South. So that's step 5 of the English pyramid. And it was a really good environment to be in for a young mid-20s coach.
Yeah. I
was working around good players, ex-professional players as well. We had a guy that played for Northern Ireland.
Okay.
We had a player that was part of Jose Mourinho's, one of his younger players when he first took over at Chelsea.
Yeah.
So it was good to be around that environment. And then I came to the US, worked around New Hampshire, went to Canada for a little bit, came back to the UK, and I worked for the FA for 3 years or so, working mainly around coach development, coach education, and overseeing 5 to 11-year-old projects. And then decided to moved up from Essex in the sort of southeast area of England to the Midlands area. And from that point, I worked for Oxford United, Oxford City, different clubs, Mansfield Town in League One.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved into education, which was a bit of a different situation. I was coaching on the side, teaching full-time.
Yeah.
Retrained as a teacher in that period. Still had the passion for coaching and realised, that's where I want to be. So I ended up doing a master's degree in coaching, and that led to various opportunities, and one of them being the Marshall Islands, which is where we're at now, and what we'll talk about a little bit more as we go on. But so that's the current role, technical director for the Marshall Islands.
No, brilliant. That's an incredible journey, and I know we'll delve a little bit more into that, but it's interesting how close a coach is really a teacher.
Yeah.
How often they correlate, right?
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. Matt, how about yourself, sir?
Similar to Lloyd, it's a rite of passage in the UK, right? You're born, you play football. So growing up from ages 5 and 6, kicking the ball around, absolutely obsessed. Anything to do with soccer. And I'm an absolute nerd as well. So if I wasn't playing, I was dreaming up, writing stories about creating football teams. I guess there's some symmetry there as to actually what's happened. I've never kind of made any money from football as such. I'm quite a good player, I'd say, but to a certain level. So playing at an amateur level. A bit of coaching on the side, but I've fallen into kind of marketing as a career, fell into it, but that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. And absolutely kept playing football on the side. I founded teams, so big shout out to Cronies FC, an amateur team like me and my mates created probably like 10, 15 years ago. So that was we were able to create a team from scratch, playing five-a-side Sunday league in England, which is a bit of an experience. So I've got some experience with the administration side, creating teams, and my day job as a marketer, I guess, is kind of what's led me to this as well. So worked with the FA as well for a couple of years. Yeah, that's a bit me in a nutshell.
Well, amazing, and I'm so glad to have you guys on today, like we said. But tell us a little bit about the Marshall Islands. For those that don't know, where in the world are the Marshall Islands?
Middle of nowhere or middle of everywhere?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. It's so if you look at a map and you find Australia, if on the other side of the map you can have Hawaii, go right in the middle and zoom in as far as you can, and then there's the Marshall Islands, so you can just about fit like a pin size on Google Maps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in that middle Pacific area.
Okay.
Tiny little cluster of islands.
How many islands are there? Do you know?
Map 24.
Between 20 and 40, let's say.
Yeah.
Because they're not purely like coral atolls.
Okay.
Some inhabited, some are inhabited.
Similar.
I think 24 that are inhabited. Is yeah.
There you go. And roughly, what is it, like 30,000 on the islands?
40,000, I think, 30,000 on Majuro, the main capital.
Okay.
And then another 10, 12,000 dotted around the different other islands as well.
Gotcha.
You've also then got Kwajalein, which is, same again, we might come to it later in the podcast, but a massive US influence, the US military base on there. And there's a tiny little island called Ebai, which is the Marshallese sort of connection to Kwajalein. So I think there's around 12,000, mostly American soldiers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that feeds into the population as well.
There you go. And how, I think we were talking, last night, I think somebody made the comment, like the widest part is 2 city blocks at any one point.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
Imagine, I don't know, right, everyone should just go and just look at this on Google. So you can't do it justice of words, but essentially it's a ring of a coral reef. So you've got a lagoon in the middle, and its narrowest part, you could probably stretch your arms out and have the ocean either side.
It's crazy.
That part is wider, but that's one of the challenges we face, and I'm sure we'll touch upon it, is fitting a full-size soccer field on there.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had to build into the sea to do this.
It's 26 miles, I think, isn't it, from top?
It's long, though.
Yeah, it's long.
Surprisingly long.
Because that's the main island in the country. It's only 26 miles from top to bottom.
Yeah.
It's
almost, it's essentially, 26 miles that'll basically get you from Bentonville to Fayetteville.
Right.
In the Northwest Arkansas corridor. So it's essentially that stretch.
The main island.
Wow.
And I think there's 30,000 people that live on this main 26-mile stretch.
Yeah. That's no wider than 2 city blocks at its widest point, which is, oh my gosh.
Like a row of houses, buildings one side and a row of houses the other side. And behind it, you've got water, whether it's the sea or the lagoon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Very narrow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. And I did do a little bit of Google Earthing, and it's beautiful out there in the Pacific. But yeah, definitely, working within the constraints of what they have there, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about that too. But and you touched on this, and we'll tease this a little bit. We'll kind of come back. This is going to be a 2-part episode, just so everybody knows. But to tease this a little bit, because we'll come back to this in part 2, you mentioned it a little bit, but Northwest Arkansas, for those that don't know, has the largest population of Marshallese people anywhere in the world outside of the islands themselves. So we have a little over 15,000 Marshallese people, mostly in Springdale, Arkansas. And the reason for that is back in World War II, the U.S. did some testing of their bombs in and around the Marshall Islands. A lot of people fled as a result of that. And a lot of them actually found work here in Northwest Arkansas in the Tyson plants, which are in Springdale. And so that's kind of what started, and then it just kind of grew and snowballed from there. And now, again, we have almost 15,000 people, a little more than that, Marshallese living in the NWA, market today. So we'll come back to that. So talked a little bit about you guys' background, talked about the Marshall Islands. How did this project get started? How did you guys get to be involved? How did you guys start along this path of creating the last nation in the world to have a national soccer team?
I guess that actually predates us. So before myself and Lloyd got involved, there are a board in the Marshall Islands right now who are taking like ownership of furthering the project. So back in 2020, a guy called Shem Levi and a couple of other guys in the Marshall Islands, basically interest in the sport has grown massively. And I think in parallel with how it's grown in the States as well, popularity of soccer. So kids have awareness of what's going on. Messi, Ronaldo, they watch games, and in the playground they're kicking the ball around.
PSG fans and shirts.
Yeah.
Man City fans.
Yeah, literally. But there's no structure, there's no organised soccer taking place. So they recognised this and thought there's an opportunity and something needed to be done. Created the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation board, an organisation. Obviously COVID happened, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
nothing really, they were pretty like laying low for a couple of years. Myself and Lloyd both simultaneously, not knowing each other, read an article online on The Athletic about the last nation on Earth, about a soccer team, and this board are on a mission to change this. And I think both of us were like, wow, this is in our Venn diagram of love and passion and skills.
Yeah.
Travel, soccer, adventure, and like a bit of marketing too. I was like, I need to get involved in this.
Yeah.
Searched up Lem Levi or Shem Levi on Facebook, wherever I could, any social media. Found his email, pestered him, said, I wanted to work for free, let me get involved. And yeah, that was in probably fall 22, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Started to get involved in a project. I was looking at it from like top, like what we're going to do. Obviously my background, brand, marketing.
Sure.
Lloyd's obviously coaching. So you had...
Yeah. So then mine was very similar. I read the same article, but at the same time I was doing blog sites and interviews on the site. I did one with a couple of guys from Samoa. We started talking about their role, and I had a few people connect and watch and read the article, the interview from the Pacific. I reached out to a couple of different nations, one of them being Shem from the Marshall Islands, and he basically said, "Look, can you help us on the technical side? Can you help to grow the game?" And obviously, I started working on that project. You started working on the marketing side. Then randomly on LinkedIn, we realised, hang on.
we've never been introduced, by the way.
Working on this project. Shem's got us both working on something project. And never told us about each other.
They never told you
We just
guys.
happened to find each other because we were talking about the Marshall Islands. Yeah. Well, I'm doing it as well. Yeah, and then because what? Who are you? Like, what are you doing? Oh, I know Shem. Well, I know Shem. But he's not told us.
No, I know Shem.
Shem he doesn't know you. And then, we got together. Basically, we're just like, look, we'll just put these together. So we had the technical side, we had the marketing side. I reached out to a guy called Justin Wally, who's part of our sort of trio of people. He looked after the press and communications, and then together we just worked out a strategy of, okay, what do we do? How do we do this? And from January 23, we just basically hit the ground running, and
It's been a full
from that point onwards,
14 or so months since that point.
Incredible. Well, you touched on it a little bit, and I'll have a little bit of an aside here. So you talked about kids knowing what's going on. You're seeing PSG shirts. You're seeing all these other different kits out there.
I've not seen a
Ronaldo.
bullshit.
Is that the elephant in the room we need to discuss right now?
There's something in the
It's,
room. For those that don't know, Lloyd is a Chelsea fan, and
Liverpool shirts there as well. Sorry.
Liverpool are recently crowned Carabao Cup or League Cup champions. The kids came out in the end to beat Mr. Owers Chelsea. So I had to wear this today. This is kind of my uniform. I do wear soccer kits from all over the world today. So, but I understand you guys may be able to change.
To be honest, we need to change this for Lloyd's sake. I can see he's boiling up with rage. In honor of our appearance, we have the camera anyway. Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. That's our first ever national team jersey.
Oh, wow.
Bit of history in the making. I think you look a lot. You'd wear this a lot.
He looks better.
Oh, that would be incredible. I'd be happy to. This is great. Look at this. We'll get this on here. You even got the number right.
Was that?
Yeah. I was the number 10.
Wow. Wearing it well. I like it.
We'll get it on there for the episode here.
There we go.
So there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
He's a rep in both, though, to be fair. Still a little red sleeve.
Just teasing you.
Yeah. Just a tease.
Blue is the color.
So, I mean, you guys kind of touched on it a little bit. Bring people into your world. What is it like to start a national team from scratch? I mean,
Yeah.
we're that's what we're doing with this show is bringing people into our world here at USL Arkansas. And what is it like to start a professional soccer club?
Yep.
Kind of from scratch. You guys are doing something similar, but there's definitely different nuances to it. Not just from the location, obviously, but also a national team is very very different, right? And so bring people into your world. What's that like?
Before we start, I think we'll give some shout outs to people who couldn't be with us today. Obviously, myself and Lloyd, we're on this trip this week. We're lucky enough to be invited in today. But there's a lot of other people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So you can mention, obviously, the board in Maduro.
Yeah, so we have Chairman of obviously as the president, the vice president, Divine Waity, the general secretary is John Kellimana, and then you have the treasurer, Paul Domingo, and the non-executive board member, who is like the link to education system, is a guy called Tony Thiame. So they're the board members. But then we obviously, myself and Matt, we have Justin Wally, who is part of our main sort of trio of British guys involved. Yeah. And then, so Justin just finished actually in the Marshall Islands himself. He's just finished a trip there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we've got Pat McStay, who's assistant.
Actually US based as well.
He's in Virginia. He's helping us with like player recruitment. We've got a couple of volunteers. So Em Miller, who's with us actually in Springdale.
Yeah.
Assistant of kind of social media and outreach, and Max, who's Max Huchin, who's a university student in the UK.
Okay.
So we're a small gang, and I think what we've achieved so far kind of belies. We're all volunteers, by the way. Like none of us are getting paid a dime for this. It's purely for the love of it, and it's probably taken over our lives much more than we can imagine.
Yeah.
So it's probably rule one is it becomes all encompassing when you're starting a team. It's fantasy football or fantasy soccer. It's everything. Look, your question is, how do you start?
How do you start? I mean, there's differences, right? Between, we had to find a league. We had to get an expansion, yes, we want to go there.
Obviously get
the
game right. Matt said, the sport was liked anyway. People liked the sport. People wanted to play the sport, but didn't really have the structure or the infrastructure, I guess, to actually do it. And we're talking as low as equipment wasn't there. Balls, bibs, cones, goals, whatever, weren't there. So the first thing for us was making sure that we managed to get an awareness around the project. And once we realized announced on social media, the worldwide media took an interest quite quickly. And it was brilliant because it helped us to gain that awareness quite quickly. And then what that led to is people donating. So we had kit and equipment going out to the Marshall Islands. We were able to use that. But then it was a case on like the technical side, I can cover that bit a lot. Obviously you can cover the other side of it. But I think from the technical aspect, it was a case of how do we grow the game? How do you get people to want to play?
Yeah.
The main thing was working from top down, bottom up, and meeting in the middle. Top down being, can we find players that around the world who are Marshallese? And fortunately we did that, and that's why we were in Springdale. But then on the flip side, we had, how do we get kids playing?
Yeah.
So wrote like a school curriculum has been signed off. The Ministry of Education's allowing that to go into schools. Long term, kids will obviously grow up playing the game, and that's part of their PE, that physical education curriculum, so they can grow up to play the game. And then before I was able to obviously get out in the summer and have actual physical sessions that now run weekly, we had to make that appearance of, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, can you help us? And I suppose that's where like the commercial side was massive for it.
Wes, can you hazard a guess how much a FIFA nation receives in money every 4 years? 2 years. 2 years.
I probably should know this, but $100,000.
No, it's approximately like $1 million a year.
Okay.
For 2 years.
There you go.
Renews. So, but there are 3 different funding streams, levels. So the lower sort of ranked you are, or the smaller nations.
It's a lot more than I would have.
Around $1 million. Higher nations, more structure, more happening, bigger countries.
There you go.
Get free. And that's so per year for 2 years.
There you go.
Guess how much we get as a non-FIFA nation?
Is it back down to my 100,000 or zero?
Zero.
Deadly squat. Yeah. So that's the position we're in. So obviously Lloyd can talk at great length how you initiate a football culture, a soccer culture, implement national team players and coaching. But for me, coming into a project is trying to look at how can we make it sustainable, because our goal is to be a FIFA nation. We want to compete in a World Cup qualifier. Why not? That is the ultimate goal for us.
Absolutely.
As it should be. But to get to that point, to get that kind of share of a FIFA pie, we need to do certain things and make ourselves, we need to demonstrate credibility and sustainability as well. So my job was to come in and how can we get to that point we're fully bootstrapped, like we're funding every single step of the way ourselves. So Yeah, we receive zero from any kind of governing body whatsoever. We get nothing from the Marshallese government, not that we should, but we don't get zero from any outside body, any other confederation. We are purely raising every single dime ourselves. So we came in, we launched a GoFundMe probably within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Some very generous people who have helped us like fund the initial steps of our journey.
Yeah.
Myself, so the board already kind of had a logo. Don't want to disrespect it, but it was a kind of Microsoft Paint job. And I was like, one of the things I see is we can be sustainable through some merchandise and really leverage. We are the last nation on earth without a soccer team. There we go.
There we go, yeah.
We'll talk about the backstory of that as well. I think I was really interested in how we kind of pulled together like a global fan base as well to
It's a brilliant kit, by the way.
Yeah. It is.
I mean, I'm not just saying that.
Yeah, this is really and there's more to come with this as well, but like as part of our steps. So we were lucky to attract a few sponsors, trying to leverage. We had so much media attention. We were blown away how invested people were. And I think some of it has helped us being British. So for example, with BBC, British Broadcasting Corp, took an interest. You got on BBC Breakfast, the biggest morning breakfast show in the UK.
Wow.
Within a couple of weeks of this, announcing it like live in the studio, which is huge.
Sky Sports, ESPN,
Al Jazeera,
Al Jazeera,
all the big, New York Times, all the big ones. We've had articles published in there, so that was huge from a kind of PR standpoint. Lloyd, a shout out for him. He must have done
it was ridiculous.
double digits, triple digits of podcasts and recordings. You are
You're a pro. Starting a new job at the same time, and it was I think it was literally the same day. I remember going into the office the same day we launched social media. I remember sitting in the office for having an induction to the new job. And my phone was just like, and I was looking at that more than listening to these guys.
Yep.
And you're not still employed by him, are you? You don't want to?
Actually not.
Kind of statement. Yeah, he was not paying attention.
They caught on, did they?
But the funny thing is, actually, my bosses was so good with it, even though I'd only been there 2 weeks. I remember saying to my boss at the time, like, look, I've had a phone call from the BBC. They've asked me to go to Manchester tomorrow morning. Can I go? And he was like, I'll just go.
Yeah.
And then his boss was he didn't tell him. So his boss was watching BBC Breakfast.
And he's like, what is Lloyd doing?
Yeah.
Wait, is it the breakfast?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
But yeah, it was crazy. It was like 2-3 podcasts a day, radio interview, whatever.
And we did not discriminate. And I think we are so appreciative of every single person who's taken the time to read about our story, talk about our story, and cover it. So you've done all manner of podcasts, some small, some big.
You've done some else. Obviously, Justin's done loads as well.
Yeah,
it's been quite a collective thing.
Yeah, I think that's been the main thing is getting our name out there. We haven't discriminated. We're so thankful for anybody who wishes.
Yeah, anyone wants to be involved.
So we'll talk about it. We love this. So we're happy to talk. So that's been one aspect in growing our social media. If there was a world ranking of, we said this yesterday, where would you rank the Marshall Islands in the world of like nations for social media followers and engagement? I think
we're talking at it. Like some of the Conquer calculations, OFC Nation, like they've got 2,000 followers on Twitter. X. We were up to like 7,000. Like the brand awareness has been quite good.
That's great.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why people have taken an interest in it, because it's just so unique, but very random as well.
Yeah.
Like when you think of a federation starting,
it doesn't happen very often.
You're talking years.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's also, and you guys can speak to this more than I can, I think there's also some aspect of kind of the where are the Marshall Islands and what are they dealing with from a kind of a climate change and kind of existential crisis, to be honest. I mean, I think that helps draw some of that, right? Which, good on them. I mean, this is what you guys need is the
awareness to everything.
Yeah. From day dot, we were very aware of the unique power and like the opportunity we have to do more than soccer is always about more than just bringing people together. And we probably haven't done enough of this so far, but it's going to be part of our journey. So for those of you who don't know, like the Marshallese people, like a fascinating and rich history, rich culture. You touched upon it at the start, like why they're linked with the US. The kind of atrocities of a nuclear bombing, and it's actually nuclear kind of awareness and legacy week this week in Springdale. So there's a lot of events around that. That's like crazy if you begin to dig into that as well. Then you've got the climate change. So if those of you who don't know, like by as early as 2030, parts of main island could be uninhabitable.
I remember standing in a place, as a part of the end main road called Rita in Maduro. And that's the area that's like predicted to be underwater. And like you stand in there and you think, like, this won't be here in potentially 6 years' time.
It's unbelievable.
Crazy, yeah.
So we want to use soccer as a platform, not only put Marshalllands on the map, but keep it on the map. That's kind of our unofficial tagline.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah. Do you want to, are we in a position to say about the second jersey or not really? I don't know.
No, that's coming. So yeah,
I mean, you did.
I put Matt on the spot, but I'm also not giving away too much.
No, so one of the things, we're going to release another one later this year. So it's going to be more of a Marshallese culture and climate awareness.
Okay.
So it's going to like represent with like emblems and motifs of like flora and fauna and icons of Marshallese culture as well. And we want to be able to use that to raise awareness of kind of climate change as well, tying it in with like UN Climate Change Awareness Week. And so that's to come.
Brilliant.
So that's how we're going to kind of not lean into that, but we need to raise awareness at the same time. So we got a lot of followers for the soccer side, and whenever we send out one of these jerseys to one of our, like, shout out to everyone who's purchased a jersey, very generous, and we've been sending those out gradually. We include like a little information pack saying this is what you're helping to do and this is why you should care, and like we got such great feedback on that as well. So
that's incredible.
Big shout out to everyone who supported us. So I've lost track a little bit. We're operating on many different tracks. It's not an easy listen, I'm sure, but
we're loving it. Look, once
we pop, we can't stop.
No, you're good. So like you guys talked a little bit about it, but kind of coming back to Lloyd's world a little bit, talk a little bit about soccer on the islands. What did you find when you first got there, and then how have you guys kind of helped to change? And you talked a little bit about the curriculum. Again, the teaching coming back and playing a role there, and how you guys get involved. But talk a little bit about the sport itself on the island. What is it like?
It was very limited because there was no real structure to it. We had kids. There's an international school called Co-op, which has a lot of American kids or parents. Sorry, kids have parents who are American who live in Majuro, and they were playing in like lunch times, recess times, of just kicking the ball about, and that was it. Like one ball, kicking it about. That's it.
Yeah,
and that links into the board forming, but there was no real structure. So the aim for me was to then create the school curriculum and get that implemented, but also have a youth structure of how do we play at youth level, but build it towards like the national identity. So we almost same again, top down, bottom up, and meet in the middle. So I created like a national identity and a philosophy which connected to like culture of the Marshallese and that like togetherness community feel. But then the playing style of it, of probably bias at the time, but it was easy to do because it was my ideas because there was no real structure. So it putting it together of like a national philosophy and then a youth structure that built into that. So long term. So there was a pathway from, kids that had never kicked a ball at 5 all the way through to those who were playing national level, male and female. But the main thing for us was quite quickly realizing that spaces are very limited. So there is a national stadium, which was very kindly paid for by other nations in the region, and supported financially from that. And that's going to be a fantastic facility, but it's still not ready now for us to use. So the main thing for us was getting the game played. And if you haven't got facilities to play, where do you play? But basketball is huge in the Marshall Islands, that US culture being very commonplace. So it was quite quickly to realize we needed to use basketball courts. And then what sport fits into using basketball courts is futsal. So futsal links into that quite quickly. So then the kids that have never played soccer,
it's okay. Football's okay.
We're all friends.
They can understand the principles of basketball and apply it to futsal because you attack as a team of 5, you defend as a team of 5. The transitions are quite similar. So then it was a case of, if they can learn that, then you can build the technical ability around it because they understand the game. So it was a case of really like formulating like a plan of how we do that. So then when I went in the summer, we had sessions for kids. And I remember saying to you, Justin, like, we're only going to get a few, like, it won't be many. And we had like 30 kids turn up. Brilliant. Same again, we had adult sessions. Didn't think many were going to turn up. We had 28, I think, to the first session.
Wow.
This is good.
Yeah.
So then now they just managed to sort out a regular venue for them. So now we have, 2 sessions per week for kids every week. We have 2 sessions per week for adults every week. We have Justin went out. We did a national tournament for male adults and for kids. We had school sessions. So partly one of the good things that did come out of that other job was I learned how to do like content creation for courses,
Mm.
build courses.
There you
I
go.
massively use that to my advantage because I managed to build a course for the Marshall Islands using their software. Shout out to Gary Callahan. Cheers, Gary. And so I don't think he knows. It doesn't.
It's all on the table today.
Now he knows. Now he knows.
And yeah, so basically we use this system. So I had like a coaching course, Marshall Islands Introduction to Coaching Soccer. Made a course around it. Went out in the summer, did a workshop. I was expecting 5, and we had 23 coaches turn up to attend.
Yeah.
Justin went out, did another 8, 9 people from it. So we've got a coaching course. So it's growing everything from that side of it. And now, obviously, with the US-based players, we've got the opportunity to grow it here as well. And that was obviously what brings us to Springdale. Women's national camp this week whilst we're here. We've got that futsal link to it. And it gives us the platform to say, look, we're growing the female side predominantly in the US because it's quite hard to grow it right now in the Marshall Islands. But if the girls in the Marshall Islands see that there's a women's team,
right?
Well, why can't you do that in 5 years, 10 years time yourself?
Give us a role.
And give, inspiration, that role model aspect.
Yep.
And then on the male side, we have got men that play. We have got men that play there and here. So we can combine the two. But yeah, I think that was like the long process of it. And it's interesting to see how it's developed from there to now.
No, that's awesome. And I think, we'll touch on more in kind of part 2 on kind of like what you just talked about. But, the last bit that I wanted to just kind of ask you guys, we've talked a lot about how you guys got started, some of the challenges that you guys face, and some of the wins that you guys have had in a really short time, which is just incredible. And this may be a loaded question, but what do you guys hope to achieve with this project, short term and long term?
Short term, I cannot wait to see a Marshallese team. I don't know if that's short term. We want to do that this year.
That's very
Marshallese, national team and representative, male or female, football, both,
Yeah.
The absolute pride of seeing that kit in action, I think it'll be unbelievable. Yep. The biggest thing as well, maybe not so much on the pitch, and what we're really trying to drive is that sense of community. I'm very aware that we're 2 or 3 British guys coming in, and we're basically here lending our expertise just to drive things forward at a faster rate. But this project is for Marshallese people, and it will be by Marshallese people. We're just kind of the guardians of it for now. So we want the community, both in Madro and the other islands, and here in Springdale and across the States, to really feel connected to this project. So that's what we want to achieve. We're probably not there right now. We're still working on that. So a lot of the media interest has been UK, around the world, but really impacting Marshallese communities positively. So if we were to host a game and for the Marshallese community to go, I'm really supporting this team and I'm behind this project, that would mean so much to us.
I think the players that we've got coming in now, so, it's a small pool of female players, but it's still big enough for us to have that futsal link still. And then, we've got a girl flying in from California, we've got a girl coming from Virginia, we've got one coming from Kansas, we've got players in Springdale, we're combining the lot. But the easy thing for us to say is to those girls like today, tomorrow, is, you will be the first players, or especially the first female players. Yeah, you will make history. You will represent your country. And
so cool.
That's going to be interesting to see because, these girls are only young themselves. They're high school players mostly. We've got, I think, 2 that have played college level that are now early 20s, and then the rest are high school players.
Yeah.
But they will be going down in history. So that's a key point. Yeah.
I think for me, that's also part of what drew me to our project and what is so neat and cool is not just to get to work in football and work in soccer, right? But to help build something.
Yeah.
And that's going to be around, hopefully, well beyond our years.
Yeah.
Right? And be a meaningful pillar and staple for that community and mean so much to them. And that is, for me, one of the coolest things about the power of sport, and especially for stories like yourselves, like us, if I can lump ourselves in there, to do it from nothing and involve the community from day one and have them be a part of the process. I think it's just so cool, and how we can impact communities in a positive way through the power of sport.
Yep.
Off the pitch. On the field stuff is brilliant. It's fantastic, and it'll take care of itself. But I keep saying this over and over on every episode. It's what we can do off the pitch together as a community through the power of sport as a vehicle. Yeah. That is just, that's where the magic happens.
I think it's that power of sport, that being the medium. You said it a minute ago about climate change, health issues, the US connections. Yeah. The great thing now, because of the free movement, they could live here. But the previously bad elements of it with the nuclear testing.
Yeah.
That is why they're here now anyway. But I think bringing awareness to all that, like you said, is still part of that youth in sport as a medium.
Yeah.
To promote it. And
if we can be real for a second, like, we don't know in 20 years what the world's going to look like.
No.
Whether Marshallese and other nations that are really like effects still going to be around or looking like they're looking like now. So if we can create a real strong sense of community wherever Marshallese people are, and
is that bit that you said earlier, help put them on the map, but keep them on the map. That was key. That hit me like a friggin' freight train. That was unreal. And it's wild to even remotely think about that, and try to put yourself in their shoes.
One of the things I've been asked before is, why is it important to have the national team? And yes, long term, get the kids playing at that level. But short term, not only does it give the kids an opportunity to see like what's available, but it also brings that realism to life in terms of the top level. Because I've said it before, like a cool runnings feel to it, where you represent your nation and you wear your nation's flag. But that's the reality of it. They can represent the nation. And if it is unfortunately a case where it might not be long-term the way the nation looks now, but in 10 years' time, they were part of the history of what it did look like when it was the way it was looking then.
Absolutely.
So it's a way of keeping it alive.
Yeah.
Free sport.
And continuing to keep their traditions alive and their culture alive. That's incredible. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. We will come back. So everybody make sure that you come back for part 2 of this conversation. Matt, Lloyd, thank you guys so much for joining me today. And for our listeners, remember to find us at Pitch to Pro on all platforms. Wherever you get your podcasts, check out USLArkansas.com and at USL Arkansas for all the latest updates on the club. Until next time, Northwest Arkansas, cheers.